Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? How's your day turning out? How are you guys doing? Hope you're having a great day. Hope everything is going on according to plan. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, I'm just finalizing with the setup so we can go live once we are live. So, yep, we are live. Good afternoon, people. Hope you had a great day and you're still having a great day. Hope that is your case. I want to talk about something very interesting today. I've been talking about this in bits and pieces, and thank you so much, first and foremost, before we do anything, for watching our channel. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for the questions you sent in. Thank you for letting us know your thoughts. This came, this talk this afternoon came as a request from someone. It came as a request from someone, and it was like, hey man, I heard in your talks you didn't make mention of loyalty. I really want to get a deep dive into that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a live talk on that, and that's what we're doing today. So the title of today's talk is From Loyalty to Alignment. From Loyalty to Alignment. Or Loyal or Stuck. The truth that will change your life. Loyal or stuck. So the question is, are you loyal or you're just stuck? The truth that will change your life. So please share this live, share this live, share this live, share it. Let's have a fuller house. Thank you so much. And let us know where you're joining from. Once you join, I'll give you a shout out. So today, I want to talk about something that looks noble on the outside, okay? But it can quietly destroy a person on the inside. And that thing is loyalty. Loyalty. Not healthy loyalty, not principled loyalty, not the kind of loyalty that is rooted in integrity, that is rooted in love or purpose. I'm talking about the kind of loyalty that keeps you in places you've already overgrown. The kind of loyalty that keeps you tied down to places you're not bigger than. The kind of loyalty that makes you feel righteous while your spirit is slowly suffocating. The kind of loyalty that sounds honorable when you're explaining it to people, but when you sit by yourself, when the room is quiet, when the noise has died down, when the applause is all gone, you know something about your life no longer fits. And today, I want to talk about that journey, the journey from loyalty to alignment. Because some of you listening to me right now are not stuck because you're lazy. You've always heard me talk about that on this channel. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you're weak either. You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're not stuck because you do not have what it takes. All right? You're stuck because you keep calling misalignment loyalty. And that is dangerous. That is very, very dangerous, my friends. Because when you give a harmful thing a holy name, you protect it longer than you should. You defend it longer than you should. You spiritualize it longer than you should. You suffer inside of it longer than you should. You keep explaining it, you keep excusing it, you keep justifying it, you keep honoring it. All of this you do while it's slowly sapping out the life from you. So let me tell you something right from the beginning here that may make some of you uncomfortable. Some of you are not trapped. And besides, not just some, a lot of you are not trapped. You're loyal, and your loyalty is costing you your future. That your loyalty is costing you your future. You think it's strength. You think it's character. You think it proves that you're a good person. You think it proves you're dependable, you're mature, you're committed, you're faithful, you're solid. But what if the very thing you're proud of is the very thing that is keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be? Hello, Astiva. You said today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. What if your loyalty is no longer a badge of honor? What if it has become an anchor that is holding you from going forward? What if the thing you keep defending is the thing that is drowning your future self? I want you to sit with that today. Because a lot of people are not suffering because they do not know what to do. Oh, I've met a lot of people on this channel. I've met a lot of people online. I've met a lot of people on the ground. They're suffering because they already know what to do. They know what to do. But they feel guilty for knowing. They already know the job no longer fits them. Michigan fan, thanks so much. They already know the job no longer fits them. They already know the relationship no longer breathes. The relationship is dead, it's stinky. They already know the friendship is one-sided now. They already know the environment is shrinking them. Where the environment they are is shrinking them. They already know the role they are playing is outdated. They already know their life has outgrown the old arrangement, the old contract. They already know they have changed. But they are trying to act loyal to a version of life that no longer matches who they are becoming. And I want you to hear me carefully today. There's a difference between commitment and self-betrayal. There is a big difference between commitment and self-betrayal. There is a difference between perseverance and fear. There is a difference between honoring history and sacrificing your future for that history. There is a difference between standing firm and staying stuck. And one of the hardest things in life is realizing that what once helped shape you, what once helped you become who you are today, may no longer be able to hold you. It hurts. It hurts. Hey, Smooth Turtles, see you. Thanks so much. It hurts. Because some things in your life are real. Even in my life too, some things are real. So some relationships are real. Some communities are real. Some seasons, they matter. Some places nurtured you. Some people loved you in the best way they know how to. That is not about disrespecting the past. No, this is not about pretending that all that meant nothing. That is not what this is about. This is about telling the truth about the present. Because you can appreciate where you come from and still admit that where you come from cannot be where you stay. You can love what helped you without letting it limit you. You can honor the chapter without living there forever. And this is where many people struggle. Oh, a lot of people struggle here because they think living means dishonor. They think changing means betrayal. They think becoming, asking for more means becoming arrogant. They think if you no longer fit the room, then you are the problem. But let me tell you something, my friends. Growth will always feel offensive to people who needed you to be the same. Growth will always feel offensive to them. I'm going to say that once again because I need somebody to hear that very well. Growth, when you start growing, you will definitely offend the people that want you to remain the same. It's not because growth is wrong, no. But because growth changes the agreement, growth changes the contract. Your growth changes the people, what the people can even expect from you. Your growth means you might stop laughing. You might stop laughing at jokes that used to be funny. You might stop participating in habits that are now draining you, but you used to find them great. You might stop saying yes to patterns that makes you smaller. You might stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You might stop choosing comfort over your calling. And once that starts happening, friends, once you start on that path, everybody who benefited from you, from the smaller version of you, is going to feel something. Some will respect it. They will respect your new life, the newfound path. Some will celebrate it. Some will be inspired by that path. But some will resist it. A greater percentage will resist it. They will fight it. Because the old version of you was easier to manage. They understood you. They know you. They know you very well. So you were easier to manage. The old version of you was easier to keep within emotional reach. The old version of you did not require them to confront places they have never stayed still. So today, we're going to go a little bit deep here. We'll deal with the myth, the lie of moral endurance. There's a lie. We're going to deal with the friction of evolution. We'll deal with the high cost of staying behind. I'm going to deal with the art of strategic severing. Because some of you do not need more motivation. I always say that. You need permission to stop calling your suffering loyalty. You need clarity. You need truth. You need courage. And maybe tonight, just maybe, this afternoon is the time you stop trading your destiny for the comfort of old allegiance. Maybe this afternoon is the time you stop abandoning your future self just to remain familiar to your past. Because your future is expensive, whether you know or not, whether you like it or not, your future is expensive. And you cannot afford to keep paying for the comfort of places. You cannot afford to keep paying for the comfort of people and patterns that are no longer aligned to the future you want to live. So let's start here. We were taught growing up that sticking around is a badge of honor. You stay no matter what. You stay. Keep going no matter what. Hold on no matter what. That's what we were taught. Endure no matter what. And let me say this with balance, okay? There's wisdom in endurance. There is wisdom in endurance. There is power in commitment. There is beauty in not quitting too early. There is something sacred about discipline. There is something admirable about not abandoning things the moment they feel uncomfortable. But that lesson becomes dangerous because a lot of people were never taught the difference between staying through growth and staying through decay. So that lesson can be one-sided. Some people are not enduring something meaningful. They are just trapped in something familiar. And because they were raised to admire endurance, they call it virtue. They call it character. They call it faithfulness. They call it being real. Meanwhile, their spirit is dying. Their spirit is decaying. Their creativity is drying up. Their joy is disappearing. Their peace is wearing out. Their voice is shrinking. Their life is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. But because they are still there, everybody claps for their loyalty. That is the myth of moral endurance. The idea that staying is always noble. The idea that living is always weakness. The idea that the longer you tolerate something, the better you must be. No. 1,000 times no. Sometimes staying is strength. And sometimes staying in fear, staying sometimes becomes fear in church clothes. Sometimes staying is wisdom. Sometimes staying is a refusal to confront what you already know. Some of you are exhausted, not because life is demanding, but because your soul is tired of negotiating against its own truth. And you know what keeps many people there? There's something called the sunk cost. The sunk cost. There's something called the sunk cost fallacy. You hear someone say, hey, Matt, I've been here too long to leave now. I've invested too much to walk away. I've given too many years to this relationship, so I can't let it go. I've put too much into this business. Even if it's not making sense, I can't let it go. Another thing you hear people say is, I can't just start over again. I've invested too much in this life. That's what we call the sunk cost fallacy. And because you cannot bear the idea that some of your years may not lead where you hope they will lead, you keep sacrificing more years. Simply put, you've wasted 6 years in a relationship. Do you want to waste 6 more? That is what the sunk cost fallacy is. That's the lie. You tell yourself, oh, I've invested so much in this relationship. Okay, I've invested 10 years. That's good. Do you want to invest 10 more? You've invested 10 bad years in a business that is not going anywhere, not proving no result. Do you want to invest 10 more years in that business? You've invested 5 years on a path that is going nowhere. Do you want to invest 5 more years? You say, hey, Matt, I've already given too much to this course. I've already given too much to this relationship. I've already given too much to this business. I can't just pack and go. But you're allowing this sunk cost fallacy deal with you, because you're thinking, oh, the years I've invested in this, because of that, I can't move forward. So what happens? You now decide to waste more years because you've already given some years behind. This is one of the deepest traps in life. It's one of the biggest traps in life. You value the years you've already spent more than the years you're currently losing. The years in the future, you value the ones you've already spent more than the ones you're losing. You keep paying for a mistake because you already paid so much. So you keep on paying. You keep defending a dead idea, a dead thing, something that is not working, because you cannot face the grief of admitting it to others that this thing no longer lives. This business is dead. This idea is dead. I know it's dead, but because I can't face people and tell them this is dead, I keep on defending that. That's the sunk cost. But hear me, my friends, hear me. You do not honor lost years by losing more years. You do not redeem misalignment by extending that misalignment. You do not fix self-betrayal by becoming more loyal to it. At some point, wisdom says, yes, I have invested deeply in this idea. I have invested 5 years in this relationship. I've invested 10 years in this business. Yes, it mattered. I invested money, I invested time. Yes, it shaped me in a way. Yes, I gave it my all, I gave it my best, but I cannot keep on sacrificing my future just because my past was expensive. That is maturity, my friends. That is not disrespect. That is discernment. Because genuine commitment has life in it. Even when it's hard, it has life. Even when it stretches you, it has life. Even when it demands discipline, it has life. There is still something inside you that says, this is difficult, but it is right. That is genuine commitment. Misalignment feels different, though. Misalignment feels heavy. Misalignment feels hollow, like a hole in the middle of it. Misalignment feels like carrying something your spirit no longer agrees with. Misalignment feels like waking up tired before the day even begins. Friends, misalignment feels like relief. Every time you get distance from the very thing you keep telling yourself you are supposed to love. Misalignment feels like your body knows before your mouth is ready to admit it that this is wrong. See, and many of us, it might be including some of you watching, many people ignore the feelings because they think the discomfort of staying is more than the discomfort of leaving. But let me ask you something tonight. Are you staying because it is right? Are you in that job because it is right? Are you in that relationship because it is right? Are you in that business because it is right? Are you in that church? Are you in that community because it is right? Are you in that organization because it is right? Or because living feels wrong? Living feels wrong. You can't leave because you've invested too much. Is that why you can't leave? Eliana, hello, thanks for joining. And if you do not know the difference between both, you will spend years proving your goodness in spaces that are costing you what you're supposed to become. You know what? See, there's something that even makes this very painful. I call it the invisible audience. The invisible audience. The people we imagine we are disappointing. In our mind, I can't make this move because I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. Matt, I can't leave this idea because I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. Matt, I can't start over this relationship. I can't go into a new one, even if this one is bad, because I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. I call them the invisible audience. The people we imagine we are disappointing. The people we imagine are watching us. The people whose opinion we carry in our mind long after they've gone home and they've moved on with their lives, but we still carry them in our own mind. Some of you are making life decisions based on people who are not even thinking about your life the way you think about your life or the way you think they are thinking. So you are shrinking for people who have already adjusted. You are sacrificing for people who will not make the same sacrifice for you. You are preserving an image for people who are not carrying your burden. And because you are conscientious, so you care. You are a good person. Because you do not want to be the villain in somebody's story, you keep delaying the truth. You keep telling yourself, maybe later. I'll do this later. Not now, maybe later. Let me give it some more time. It will still work. And every time you say maybe later to alignment, you are saying not yet to your future. And there's a version of you that is sitting down and watching all of this unfold. I call him the wiser version, the lighter version, a clearer version, a more honest version, a more alive version. And that future self is quietly asking a question. Why do you keep abandoning me just to stay loyal to what no longer fits? Friends, that's a painful question. Because many people think they are protecting relationships. They think they are protecting reputation. They think they are protecting history. They think they are protecting community. But in reality, they are abandoning themselves in small installments. A little compromise here, a little silence there, a little shrinking tomorrow, a little self-betrayal next week, a little numbness next month. Until one day, they look up and realize they are still present in their own life physically, but internally, they've gone missing. They've gone very far. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who worked at the same company for 18 years. 18 years. He started there young. He built relationships there. He earned trust there. He knew everybody. Everybody knew him. He wore his loyalty with pride. And honestly, it made sense. It made sense. He had given the place some of the best years of his life. He had stayed through transitions. He has stayed through the uncertainty. He has stayed through staffing changes. He has stayed through difficult seasons. Stayed when other people left. And that kind of loyalty becomes part of your destiny and part of your identity. It stopped being just what you do. It becomes who you are. It becomes who you are. But over time, the company changed. Leadership changed, culture changed, the feelings changed. What once felt like a place where he was building something started to feel like a place where he's being packed, he's being overlooked. He was no longer growing, he's no longer challenging, he's no longer seen the same way, no longer seen, no longer energized. And he knew it, he felt it. Every Sunday morning or Sunday evening, his mood shifted. Every Monday morning, his body felt heavy. He sat in the parking lot longer than necessary before walking into the office. He stopped bringing fresh ideas because he was tired of watching them die in meetings. He found himself more tired than the work itself could explain. But when people asked him why he stayed behind, why are you here for 18 years? He had the same answer every time. I've given too much to leave. I can't leave now. I've invested too much in this place. Naturally, that sounds reasonable. It sounds loyal. It sounds noble. But beneath that sentence was fear. The fear of starting over. The fear of being misunderstood. The fear of losing the identity he had built around being the one who stayed. Years passed. Younger people came in and they moved ahead. Opportunities came and went. His ideas became quieter because things are changing. His confidence got smaller. His imagination started shutting down. And one day, his daughter asked him something simple that broke something open in him. She said, "Dad, why do you always look tired?" And he could not answer. Because it was not just work, it was misalignment. It was the cost of staying in a place that no longer matched the man he had become. He was not tired because he lacked work ethic. No. He was tired because he's spending energy being loyal to a version of life that already moved on from him. And that is the lesson here, friends. That is the lesson. Loyalty without growth becomes self-betrayal. Loyalty without growth becomes self-sabotage. You do not gain extra points for how long you stayed somewhere that stopped honoring your growing. You do not get rewarded in life for abandoning yourself more elegantly than other people. Time does not automatically equal value. Anybody that says that is a lie. Time does not equal value. Alignment equals value. Think about that guy that has been in your office for 25 years. What position is that guy is he occupying? Time does not equal value, and things are changing. And a lot of people have confused duration with destiny. You think something lasted a long time, it must be right. No. 1,000 times no. Some things were right for a season. Some things were sacred for a chapter. Some things were necessary for your development, for your growth. But not everything that helped you, that helped raise you to become the man that you are now, is meant to house you forever. Not everything that helped raise you, not every place that raised you, you were supposed to live in forever. That is one of the hardest truths to accept, because we are emotional beings. We want permanence. We want continuity. We want to believe what once worked will always work forever. But life doesn't work that way. Friends, life does not work that way. Growth definitely does not work that way. Growth creates friction. Real growth creates internal tension because you start evolving faster than your environment. You start thinking thoughts your current circle does not know how to hold. You start wanting things your old life cannot support. You start feeling disturbed by things you used to negotiate, you used to tolerate. You start craving different conversation, different habits, different standards, different priorities. And that is disorienting because you believe the old you believe your old self. You remember the old agreement, you remember the old contract, you remember the old desires, you remember the old pace and the old place. And you also remember the old patterns. And now you're changing in front of people who knew the former version of you. That is not comfortable, my friends. Because growth is exciting in private. It gets complicated in public. It gets complicated when people around you no longer realize you're no longer available for the same patterns. Or when they realize you're no longer available for the same patterns. It gets complicated when they realize your boundaries are changing. It gets complicated when they realize your appetite is changing. It gets complicated when they realize your priorities are changing. Your tolerance is changing. Your emotional language is changing. And because you are a decent person, because you are a good person, because you do not want to hurt people, because you do not want to become arrogant, you start feeling guilty for evolving. You start apologizing for your hunger. You start minimizing your discipline. You start making your dreams sound smaller than they really are. You start pretending that discomfort is just in your head. But sometimes it's not in your head. Sometimes it's in your spirit. Sometimes it is your inner life telling you that your current reality no longer fits the person you're becoming. And that tension right there is what I call the friction of evolution. The space between who you were and who your future is demanding that you become. The awkward place where you no longer fit the old room but have not yet fully inhabited the new life. The grief of realizing that your growth changes your relationships. Everybody loves transformation in theory, or everybody loves it in theory. But not everybody loves the practical consequences of your becoming, the practical consequences of your transformation. Everybody wants you healed until your healing means you stop tolerating dysfunction. Everybody wants you growing until your growth means you stop participating in habits that keep the group comfortable. Everybody wants you successful until your success changes what you can say yes to. Everybody wants you evolving until your evolution forces them to confront the ways you stayed still. And some of you are carrying guilt because you outgrew people, you outgrew places, you outgrew patterns, so you're guilty. Let me free you from that guilt today. Outgrowing people does not mean you're cold. Outgrowing people does not make you fake. Outgrowing people does not make you disloyal. Outgrowing people means the relationship was built for one version of your life, and now another version is emerging. That is all. That is what it is. You're not evil because your standards changed. You're not arrogant because your values became clearer. You're not selfish because your future now requires boundaries your past did not need. Some of you are being spoken to as if your growth is a crime. As if changing your mind is betrayal. As if wanting peace is pride. As if wanting more honesty is disrespect. As if wanting a different life is abandonment. But the people who say that often are not reacting to your growth. because it is wrong. No, they are reacting because your growth exposes their comfort. And that, my friend, is hard. That is hard for them to take. Because it means you cannot use everybody's reaction as a trustworthy guide to you. Some people are not sad that they are losing you. They are sad that they are losing access to the version of you that was wiser to keep small. And one of the clearest signs that your current allegiances are suppressing your emerging identity is this. You feel right, you feel this relief when you're away. Not joy, but relief. See, that matters. It matters a lot. You're not energized by the space. You're released by distance from the space. You do not feel expanded there. You feel edited there. You're forced to reduce your life when you're in that space. You do not feel inspired there. You feel monitored there. You rehearse what you're going to say before you say it. You hide your next move because you already know it will be doubted. You know it will be criticized. You know it will be mocked. You know it will be dismantled. So what do? You hide your next move. You leave the interaction tired. Every day you leave there worn out. You leave the environment smaller, no gains, no addition. You leave the conversation feeling like you had to abandon part of yourself just to remain acceptable. Friends, that is not peace. That is suppression. That is not peace. And if you stay in that for too long, your nervous system starts calling it normal. Your soul starts getting used to being underfed. Your life starts reorganizing itself around what other people can tolerate from you. That is dangerous, my friends. That is dangerous. Because familiar is not always healthy. History is not always harmony. And time invested is not proof that something is still right. No. Let me make this even more personal. Because sometimes this is not just about jobs, about opportunities. Sometimes it shows up in very deeply personal spaces. Sometimes it shows up even in our marriages. Sometimes it shows up in family systems, Sometimes it shows up in the quiet role you've played for too long that everybody thinks the role is now your destiny. There was a woman who had spent most of her adult life being what others or what everybody needed. She was dependable, she was kind, she was supportive, she was patient. She was the one who remembered details. She was the one who checked in, the one who made things work, the one who adjusted for everybody, the one who smoothed conflict over, the one who carried what everybody else dropped. Because she was so good at carrying everybody else, nobody noticed she had stopped carrying herself. Nobody even asked her, how do you do? Over the years, she began telling herself a story. This is what love looks like. This is what maturity is. This is what loyalty looks like. And some of that are true. Yes, some of that are true for sure. But what she did not realize was that she had slowly built a life where everyone had access to her. But she no longer had access to herself. That is frightening. She used to have dreams before. She had real dreams. She dreamt of building something. She dreamt of learning something. She dreamt of stretching into a fuller version of herself. But every time she moved towards those dreams, the people around her react like her growth was a threat to emotional balance they had grown comfortable with. Hey, thank you, Fee 777. If she wanted time to think, she was called distant. If she wanted to pursue something new, she was called unrealistic. If she pulled back from unhealthy patterns, she was called cold. If she stopped over explaining, she was accused of changing. And yes, she had changed. Pain had changed her. Silence had changed her. Being overlooked has changed her. Carrying too much for too long had changed her. She started waking up early before everybody else just to sit in the quiet of the night. Not to be dramatic, because it was the only time she could hear her own thoughts before the demand of other people starts coming again every day. One morning she sat with a cup of coffee and wrote in a notebook, I miss the person I was before I started living only for everybody else. And when she wrote it, tears fell. She cried because the truth finally hit her. She was not simply tired, she was disappearing, she was fading away. She had been performing loyalty in spaces that required a self-erasure. That is the cost of some of you, and that is the cost some of you are paying today. Not just inconvenience, that's a small thing. Not just stress, disappearance. You are living there physically, but your inner life is going quiet, is going down the hill. You stop sharing new ideas because nobody knows how to receive them. You stop dressing your spirit in hope because nobody around you notices. You stop speaking about your dreams because every conversation bends back towards maintenance, towards survival, towards emotional management. You stop imagining a larger life, a better life, because it feels disrespectful to dream in front of people who have made peace with endurance. One day, an old friend met her for lunch and said something that shook her. A friend said, you're still very kind, you're still capable, but you do not sound alive anymore. That sentence cut through her, cut through everything, her bones, her ligament, her flesh. Because sometimes the people closest to you, they normalize your shrinking, they normalize your being very small. It takes people outside the system to tell you the truth. Sometimes. You do not sound alive. That's what a friend told her. And that night she cried in the bathroom. Not because somebody hurt her, not because somebody beat her, but because someone finally told her the truth. Truth does that. Truth gets into you and messes you up. It changes you in the right direction. Truth breaks the performance. Truth exposes where you've been surviving on denial. Slowly she began making different decisions. Quiet decisions, not reckless decisions, not revenge decisions, aligned decisions. She started setting boundaries. She stopped volunteering for emotional labor that nobody appreciated. She made time for the work she had postponed for years. She stopped treating her dreams like a selfish luxury and started treating them like a responsibility. And the system did not applaud it. I told you before. The system will fight you when you start making those changes. Because unhealthy systems are really, they really celebrate your liberation. They negotiate for your continued self-abandonment. They want you to remain the way you are. The guilt is real. The fear is real. The history is real. But something in her slowly came back to life. And she began to understand that leaving behind the version of herself that only existed to keep everyone comfortable was not betrayal, it was resurrection. Some of you do not need permission to become hard. You do not need permission to become difficult. You need permission to come back to life. And I want to pause here because somebody listening tonight is tired in a way sleep cannot fix. You're tired in your spirit. You're tired in your mind. You're tired in your emotional life. And part of the reason you're tired is because you're performing a version of yourself that no longer fits. Friends, it is exhausting. Performing is exhausting. Let me give you another example. There was a young man who was the first in his family to begin changing his life in a real way. He started reading more books. He started taking his health seriously. He started saving money. He started thinking about his future. He started trying to break patterns his family had normalized for generation. He still loved them though. Oh, he still loved them. He still respected them. He still helped when he could. But every time he tried to live differently, somebody in the family made him look like he was becoming too good. When he stopped spending recklessly, he was called prideful. When he stopped showing up to every unproductive event, he was called distant. When he tried to protect his mornings, his discipline was mocked. When he spoke about building a different future, people treated it like he was rejecting where he came from. And because he loved them, he kept shrinking. He would make progress in private and then undo the progress in public just to keep the peace. He would build momentum, then break his own rhythm so nobody felt left behind. He kept proving his loyalty by interrupting his own evolution. Then one day he sat in his room looking at his bank account, looking at the books on his desk, looking at the life he was trying to build, and he realized something painful. He was asking his future to wait so his past will not feel uncomfortable. And when that truth landed on him, when that truth hit him, he had to make one decision. Would he keep explaining his growth to people committed to misreading the growth? Or would he quietly become who his life requires he becomes? See, that story matters because not all misalignment is dramatic. Sometimes it's 1,000 small compromises, 1,000 moments where you choose being understood over being aligned, 1,000 moments where you choose emotional permission over inner conviction, 1,000 moments where you betray your future in public, politely, socially, and in acceptable ways. This is how people lose themselves. Not always in one catastrophe, no. Often in little, tiny, loyal betrayals of their own becoming. And that brings us to the high cost of staying behind. Because staying behind always has a cost. And the cost is usually invisible at first. It accumulates gently, a little resentment, a little numbness, a little less confidence, a little less joy, a little less creativity, a little less courage, a little less honesty, a little less hope, until one day you realize you're still functioning, but you're no longer deeply engaged with your own life. That is the invisible tax of misalignment that you pay. Your mental health pays for it because pretending is expensive. Your creativity pays for it because suppressing people suppress people, they stop imagining. Your opportunities pay for it because you cannot take new doors seriously while your hands are full holding dead weights. Your future pays for it because every year spent shrinking to protect old allegiances widens the distance between your current life and your true calling. And then people becomes quieter. Not because life gave them nothing, but because they stayed too long in spaces that made them abandon themselves. Let me say something difficult. When you play small to keep other people comfortable, you do not create peace. You create a ceiling on your income, a ceiling on your impact, a ceiling on your relationships, a ceiling on your honesty, a ceiling on your confidence, a ceiling on the work you could build, a ceiling on the life your gifts were meant to produce. And then eventually you start resenting circumstances for a ceiling for you helped preserve. Because deep down you knew you needed to move. You knew you needed to speak. You knew you needed to leave. You knew you needed to choose differently. But you kept waiting for permission from people whose comfort depended on your hesitation. Friends, that's a very hard truth. But hard truths can save a life. Let me name something tonight. I call it the destiny gap. The destiny gap is the difference between who you are right now and who you're meant to become. And that distance is not measured only by talent. It is measured by alignment. Every time you silence the conviction that keeps returning, every time you choose comfort over calling, every time you confuse endurance with obedience to purpose, every time you say maybe later to the thing your future is already asking you to confront. The dangerous part is this: the destiny gap does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it just feels like low-grade disappointment, a quiet pain, a strange heaviness, being surrounded but being lonely, being appreciated but not understood, being productive but unfulfilled, being loyal but not aligned. That ache is information. Do not miss it. Do not numb it. Do not expect it away, or do not push it away too quickly. Listen to it. Because some pain is not there to destroy you. Some pain is there to tell you the truth. Thank you so much, my friends, for your time. Thank you for listening. If this message resonates with you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody that needs to hear this. Share it because I know this could just be a lifesaver. And remember, hit the subscribe button if you've not done that. And let us know what you think about these messages. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Comment. I'm always in the comment listening, and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much, friends. This is Mark Miller, signing off for the day. Talk to you guys later. Bye for now. Peace out.